Have you read the Dresden Files? Or someone you know told you you're missing out, that you just have to read them? I'm Mike Badger, and this is for you. The Dresden Files is a 20-year running urban fantasy series written by Jim Butcher, currently with 17, 19, 20 plus, but mostly 17 books. It follows Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden, a wizard private investigator living in Chicago. He's less this Harry and more this Harry.
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you knock?
So imagine Harry Potter as an unmarried 20-something-year-old adult. He's 6'9", trenchcoat-wearing Gandalf, with the brains of a slow Sherlock. Runs his mouth off at everyone he can on Spencer's snark. And at the series' start, he's an entrepreneur. He's trying to pay his bills. Putting his name in the phone book, of course, is his idea of clever marketing. And much of his work comes from the superstitious edge of society. He also helps special investigation police investigate supernatural crime. And each book is written in a linear timeline, roughly a year apart, designed to be Harry's worst day of the year. Allies include a tough, never say short cop, a literal fist of God, paladin, a large cat, a larger dog, and countless others. Villains cross the supernatural and natural world in many flavors, and Butcher has built a world where every mythology and group from around the world has a place. With a simple and direct writing style, Dresden Files books are designed to make you keep on reading. I love this series with a capital L-O-V-E. By far and away my favorite book series of all time. I love it more than chocolate. More than a late morning sleep-in with no responsibilities, and yes, us dads with young kids think about that a lot. So you understand how crazy I am about this series. When I finished it the first time, I put down the book. At the time, this is Proven Guilty, book 8 or so, and I reread the entire thing again. I have a set of hardcovers, which are for me, and a set of mass-market paperbacks for all the people I just have to convince to try. And yes, if you like it, would you like the next one? You do want the next one, don't you? The paperbacks are cracking the bindings because I press it on just about anyone who gives me the hint that they like fantasy. And I'll quote Patrick Rothfuss here, as I can't express it any better, though it isn't fair because there's no way I can imitate him, but alright, here we go. The Dresden Files is my favorite series ever. I say that both as a writer and a reader. Think about that for a moment. I don't make statements like that casually. As a series, Dresden trumps everything else I've read, or am currently reading, and that includes books I overflow with love for, like Lynch's Gentleman Bastard series, or Robin Hobb's Farseer, or Sanderson's Mistborn, or Abercrombie's First Law. And I like the Dresden Files more than I like the Wizards of Earthsea, more than I like Zelazny's Chronicles of Amber, more than Gaiman's Sandman, more than Lord of the Rings. And as a series, Dresden Files beats even Pratchett's Discworld. There. I said it. I love these books so much that when Ghost Story came out, I read the entire series starting at book 1, so I'd be ready for the next book. Then Cold Days came out and I read the entire series again. That's something I haven't done since high school, and I don't have time for that. Nevertheless, I did it. And I did it too. And so now you know just how biased my personal opinion is, but let's make this a little more objective by pretending that I'm not me, I'm you, or someone else. And how do I know, for someone who hasn't read the Dresden Files, that it's for me?
Use the force, Luke. Let go.
So if you're researching whether the series is for you, if you're looking at blogs, Sporkings, Reddit, seriously, do not touch the Dresden Files subreddit if you haven't read the series yet. You'll quickly find out that there's a wide range of internet opinion about the series, and if you're considering reading it, here's the broad strokes it might appeal to you or not. And the first thing I would say is humor. It is very, very difficult to make humor pop on a page, to make it where someone will want to laugh out loud from a written text. Straight up though, through the darkest of nights, brightest of days, this series consistently lands humor on the page, and this is a rare feat. There are countless quotes. I plan to track them as I read book to book and give reviews. I'll have lists of quotes from the series as I go through, so make sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell to follow along with future videos. The second point I'd make about the series is that storyline integration. Jim planned the full thing. He knows where he's going. He knows where the beats are going to be, he knows where the ending's going to be, and he has consistently written book after book after book, building and building and building, almost perfect power creep of both his character development and growth and over the course of the whole series. I'll talk more about this when I get to discussing the making of Dresden Files video to come in the future, but I think that this makes him one of the more unusual fantasy or epic fantasy writers. The third point I'd make is that this is a massive, sprawling fantasy series, or at least it becomes one over time, told from first-person point of view. Very unusual. I don't even know if there's another one out there that's the same kind of style, creating an epic fantasy with dozens of relatable, important characters that you care about, you deeply know and care about, all told from a first-person point of view. The fourth point I make is about character redevelopment. What I mean by that is that characters throughout the series don't show up every single book. Sometimes you'll have a character that has a massive amount of growth in one book, and then they'll vanish for a couple of books and come back, and you think, that's terrible, I want to see that character again, I really care about them. Yes, but what's interesting is that Jim Butcher doesn't forget about what they've lived in the time frame. And so you end up with characters who have moved forward in their own lives and have their own growth and challenges. And so when they come back into the story that we're tracking along with Harry, they are different individuals and different people. And it creates a really interesting flavor where you'll re-meet characters and their new interactions will lead to even further growth. The fifth point I'd make is about readability. This is a page turner. It's easily digestible. It's written, designed to help you get through the book. It's not written to be complex. The prose is workable. It's workmanship. I wouldn't call it artistic or stylistic prose. It's there to help you enjoy the story and not get in your way. And the sixth point I'd make about the strengths of the series is that it has a go-wide pop culture fun. The series was designed thinking about the wider world that we live in, and if fantastical things did exist within our world, how would that work? Because this is not set in some made-up world. This is set in the current day. So things have to make sense. There have to be a reason for why vampires can live in our world or interact with us, and nobody really talks about them in a serious way. How are zombies, werewolves, vampires, fantastical creatures, demigods, how do these things exist in our world, modern world today, in a way that makes some form of logical sense? These are all things that I love about the series, and things I think you'll love too. That said, there are some concerns about the books that people have, and I'd want to address those. The first is that, yes, the earlier books in the series are weaker. They were the first published books that Jim had, and as a writer, he developed at such a rate of growth that by definition, earlier books are going to be weaker than the later books in the series. The other thing that comes up a lot is that it's cheesy silliness. Cheesy. That it's just ridiculous. Some of the stuff, some of the scenarios, some of the jokes, some of the pop culture references are just absurd. Absurdity. How can you enjoy this? This is so ridiculous. And the thing is, yes, there's a lot of absurd, silly, ridiculous things. Jim Butcher is really into nerddom. He loves D&D, he loves comic books. That's part of the charm. You either like that or you don't like that. If you don't like that about it, then you probably won't like the series because that comes up over and over and over again. The third point is that Harry Dresden is chivalrous or chauvinist. If people don't like a young man in his 20s, someone who is learning and growing as a person over the course of the series, where you see that the chivalry chauvinist balance evolves over time, then I don't know what to tell you because you're just going to be missing out. But if that bothers you, then this isn't for you. And the last thing I'd say is the formulaic component of it. You'll see this a lot where people say, well, the books are kind of just case files. They're just each one is another serial episode and they kind of start to repeat themselves. And I can concede the point because, yes, it's true. A lot of the earlier books, Jim's trying to figure out the formula. He's growing and learning in each book. So each book has its things that are growing and moving forward. But a lot of the beat to beats in the earlier books, yes, do follow a similar rhythm. So that said, I would just recommend spacing it out. But I can see how someone might say, oh, I'm getting bored of this, or I have to read it over a long period of time. I don't know if I want to do that. Totally get it. At the end of the day, is the Dresden Files perfect? No. Is anything? No. And on average, we get a Dresden book every 1 to 2 years. So you don't have to worry about, oh, is it going to be a Game of Thrones or King Killer Chronicles of 4, 5, 6 year delays. Jim's also said that he is not planning to leave the ending of the series with tons of open questions and, oh, you didn't answer this or what happened to this thread. He's really working his very best to wrap up this massive series and make sure he has enough room to cover all the different points. Okay, I hear you. I hear you say, I'm sold. Where do I start? What do I do? So I think there's 3 good places to start in the series, and any of which work. Now, obviously, there's lots of different opinions about this. Some people will probably argue this, but I'm going to start and say at the beginning, if you can survive a few weaker books, if you can work through a few 200-300 page novels, which are, again, quick reads, if you can work through those, you'll see the exponential growth, and you'll still be able to catch all those little threads, because Jim Butcher plotted this as a full series, which means that you have a lot of little pieces left lying on the side of the road that you think, oh, that doesn't matter. In the first few books, that actually does matter as the series goes on. And so you may not want to miss those. They're also not bad. They're enjoyable. I read them, buzzed through them, couldn't stop myself. I had a great time with them. On the other hand, if you're like, I don't know, I don't want to work through 3 books of lower quality writer, I don't know. All right, so then start with book 4. Some people will argue Grave Peril, which is book 3, is the one to go. I would say Summer Night book 4 because Grave Peril, yes, a lot of big plot movement happens there. Book 4 has a lot of the impact is coming through there anyway, and the writing is so much better. The plot development is so much better. The overall growth of the series as a whole, as him as a writer, is seen there. And so I think book 4 is where it really starts to take off dramatically, and that's why I would suggest starting with Summer Night rather than Grave Peril. If you're going to do Grave Peril, just do books 1, 2, and 3. That said, if you're like, I don't know, I just what is the Dresden Files? What is it at its core? What will, if you give me one book that will sell me on the whole series end to end, is book 7, Deadbeat. And that's because Jim wrote it to win a lot of people over. This has to get them interested in the series so they come back to it. And he does it phenomenally. Is this series for me? Deadbeat is the one to go with. I hope you found this video helpful. With the 2 new books coming out this year, we have the 16th book, Peace Talks, coming out in July, and the 17th book coming out in September. Now's the time, if you haven't got into it, to get into it. And for me, I'm going to be rereading the whole series, going into detail on all the books, follow all the various plot threads and little dropped hints to try to get 2 Peace Talks by the time of release or around there behind me going into it. And I hope you guys will join me. And so if you're interested in following along with the reviews as I go through, then make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and please avoid putting any sort of spoilers into the comment section. This video is designed for people who haven't read the series before, who'd be interested in it, and we don't want to ruin it for them. And stay tuned for the next video. I'm looking forward to it. And again, this is Mike Badger signing off. I'll see you guys next time.